Coming up on Trailblazer Weekly, it's officially crossover season as the spring sports officially open their seasons, with basketball still wrapping up its regular season. We'll chat with softball head coach Randy Simpkins about his team's upcoming season and the tournament that they'll host later this weekend.
Plus, it's National Signing Day for football, and newly appointed head coach Paul Peterson takes time out of his busy day to join us, help break down this year's signing class.
It's all coming up next, so stick with us. Trailblazer Weekly starts now.
Live from the CEC studio at Dixie State University, it's Trailblazer Weekly with Carrick Segmiller. And Drayson Ball. This is Trailblazer Weekly.
What is up? Hope you're having a great day today. We are live inside the CEC TV studios, the community education channel at CEC TV, TDS cable channel 23, as well as on the good old-fashioned radio, Radio Dixie 91.3 FM on your radio dial. We are also live on the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page as we get set for another exciting edition of Trailblazer Weekly. I'm Carrick Segmiller. Joining me, as always, the co-host, Drayson Ball.
Carrick, did it stay dry yesterday? We got a bunch of rain, and I was worried that you're going to be washed away in all that rain yesterday.
I did think about needing to start building a boat. They decided that an umbrella would be sufficient. Did you see the 4 snowflakes of snow that fell today?
I didn't. Apparently it was something that happened, but I certainly didn't see it. Hey, at least we got rain instead of the snow that pounded northern Utah, so we can be glad that in a few days' time we'll have a lot of sun, and we'll have to be clearing off snow from our driveways.
30% chance of frozen mix for the remainder of the day. There's your Trailblazer Weekly weather update. But no, seriously, that rain wreaked some havoc on Trailblazer softball. Trailblazers were supposed to have played 2 games yesterday, one against Central Washington, one against Hawaii Hilo. Those 2 teams are both here for the 2019 Courtyard Classic starting tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, out of the Canyons Complex. Those games were not able to be played. Coach Simpkins called me in the morning and said, Carrick, unless you've got a surfboard, and that's a direct quote, by the way, unless you've got a surfboard, we're not playing on our field. And Carl Brooks Field, they take really good care of Carl Brooks. So if you look at it, you might see a puddle or 2 here. You might say it's not too bad because there's no real huge puddles. Well, they take such good care of it, and it's the right kind of dirt, the right kind of surface. You might not necessarily see those puddles form. It drains well, but it's soft, it's squishy. It was unplayable. Trailblazers couldn't make that happen. So their season opener will be tomorrow at the Canyon Softball Complex.
Looking forward to it. A great weekend of a lot of softball and some good teams coming into town. But let's kick off today's show with our weekend recap, starting with men's basketball. The Trailblazers returned from a 4-game road swing back to a near month-long home stretch here in Burns Arena, and they came back and played Fort Lewis and Adams State and got 2 victories on the weekend, starting off with Fort Lewis, a 63-53 victory over Fort Lewis, a team coming in where you didn't really know a whole lot about them. I mean, the record isn't necessarily indicative of the way they played Friday night against the Trailblazers, but kind of a tale of 2 halves, if you will, kind of a back-and-forth game, and then obviously the Trailblazers able to pull away late there in that second half and get a well-needed home win after a long road trip.
It's been kind of interesting to see this Trailblazer team the last couple of weeks, with the exception of the Colorado Mesa game in Grand Junction. They led that one wire to wire, and they had all the energy they needed. They played a fantastic game that game. They've not put together 40 minutes of complete basketball really since then. They had to come back frantically at the end at Western Colorado. We showed you that comeback last week. And then starting things off against Fort Lewis, next thing you know, you're down 33-25 at the half. It wasn't a terrible start. They were neck and neck, but they gave up a run late in the first half and went into the halftime break down 8. Coach Judkins, as he always does, went in, figured things out. Dixie State outscored Fort Lewis 38-20 in the second half, and you could see the energy. You saw guys like Zach Frampton diving on the floor, trying to get loose balls. I mean, Dub Price is always an energy guy. Wade Miller had a huge game. He hit 3 threes in that game, team high 15 points. They kind of shared the ball as well. But like you said, tell it 2 halves, and really they got things going in the second half, turn it around, and they were able to pick up a big win. I mean, that would have been very disappointing to have dropped that game at home after winning 4 in a row on the road. You're in a spot where you've played yourself into about the 6th place spot in the RMAC right now. You can't afford to lose really any games, but especially not at home, especially not to somebody below you in the RMAC standings. They were luckily able to turn around, and they got the win.
And they did it defensively. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks on this show. Their defense has really been what's been able to carry them throughout the stretches in the games where maybe their offense hasn't performed as well as they would like to. 25% field goal shooting for Fort Lewis in the second half. 0 of 9 from 3. Did not hit a 3-pointer in the second half, and then just 8 of 14 from the free throw line. So obviously that's not having anything to do with defense, but if you're not hitting shots in rhythm in the offense, it might affect your shooting from the free throw line. Like you mentioned, Wade Miller had a tremendous game, the 15 points. Conway chipped in 11, and Dub Price had 10 points for the Trailblazers off the bench. And just really a solid second half after kind of a lackluster first half, like you mentioned. They shot they shot better from the field in the second half, 41%, and didn't shoot a whole lot of threes in the second half because they were getting a lot of what they wanted in their offense from the second half, and then obviously came out with a tremendous defensive pressure there in the second half. And then moving into game 2, which was against Adams State, was a little bit of a different story, kind of come down to the wire. 71-70 win ultimately for the Trailblazers, but certainly a game that was in question even down to the last possession where Fort Lewis had a chance to win it with a desperation shot. Not even necessarily desperation.
Didn't even get the shot off. Shot clock expired, but they had a chance to go down, and the ball was knocked loose. You talk about the defense. They knocked that ball loose. As you look at these numbers, you kind of look at it, and like you said, it was a little bit different than Friday night, but as you really dive into it, it was almost, I don't want to call it the same story. You go in just trailing by 2 at the half, and then in the second half, Adams State comes out. They build a 58-49 lead with just over 10 minutes to go in the second half. This was an Adams State team. After Dixie State was able to come back and win on Friday over Fort Lewis, you thought, okay, now we can turn our full attention to Adams State. They had just beat Westminster in Salt Lake City. Adams State is athletic as they come in this conference, and really more so than a lot of teams in the country. And you saw, their leading scorer, John Dewey. He dropped 33 points, 6 of 8 from 3, 12 of 24 from the field. Incredible player is John Dewey, and he almost single-handedly willed his team to a victory. Dixie State trailing by 9 with just over 10 to go, dug deep. How about a 17-8 run to tie the game a little bit later in the half, including 7 of 8 at the line. They got to the line, and that is a Coach Judkins trait. A Coach Judkins coached trait. He wants his teams to get to the line. They went cold a little bit, so he said, how are we going to turn this around? Let's get to the free throw line. They converted 7 of 8 from the free throw line during that 17-8 run. They were able to tie the game. Dub Price had a huge and one late in the game off of an offensive rebound, a tip from Matt Conway, and then Dixie State was able to take the 71-70 lead. And you mentioned it was John Dewey. They put the ball in the hands of their leading scorer. He got across half court. Dixie State was able to trap him. The ball was knocked loose. Adams State might argue that there was some contact. There was no foul called, and then the Grizzlies didn't even get a shot up. Dixie State escaped with a 71-70 win and an important homestand sweep. Now Dixie State's won 6 in a row.
Yeah, and they won the aspects of the game where I like to say are the biggest difference. Out-rebounded them and had fewer turnovers as well. Moving into the women's side, they also hosted Fort Lewis and Adams State over the weekend, and lost a tough one to Fort Lewis on Friday night, a 66-60 final from that one, and really kind of just a bad second quarter kind of doomed the Trailblazers early on, and they were just never able to recover. They actually outscored Fort Lewis in the second half by 6, but just 9 points there in the second quarter really was the biggest difference in this one, and a tough loss to an opponent where you look back and you should have won this game. Just unfortunately they weren't able to do so.
Yeah, they've had a few of those slow starts, and you could tell the coaches we were a little frustrated toward the end of that game, and they thought, what's going on here? How do we get our team motivated? They came on toward the end. They had the ball down 4. Kesley Stevenson had a 3 that rimmed out from the left wing with about 20 seconds left, and at that point they finally had Fort Lewis on its heels, And I'm of the firm belief that if Kesley Stevenson, that ball was in and out. If it goes in, it's a 1-point game. Fort Lewis had been turning the ball over a little bit. I think Dixie State would have won that game. But it wasn't to be. The 3 popped out. But you can't have those slow starts. And the coaches know that, and the players know that. And I was at their shoot around earlier in the day. There was tons of good energy. The coaches were excited about what they saw. They said, you're ready, let's go do this. And then somehow it didn't all come together when it came time for that game. Luckily, they were able to turn it around the next night. Slower first half again, but then the big second half, outscoring Adams State 47-26 in the second half for the 69-54 win to get back just one game under 500 in conference play. One thing the women's team has not done, they've lost a few games that they would like to have back, but only one time this year have they lost consecutive games. So they've been good about bouncing back, and they're still in about 10th place. They still have some work to do, but with splitting all these series, these weekend series, they've given themselves a chance that if we can go on a run now, we can play our way into the RMAC tournament still.
And that's one of the things is you got to be able to win consecutive games. And for the last week or so, 2 weeks maybe, they've won one, lost one, won one, lost one. It's been back and forth for a couple of weekends in a row. And like you talk about, at some point you gotta find some consistency and figure out why are we coming out of the game in the first quarter, first half, slow and be able to turn things around. Obviously, when you score 47 points, like you mentioned in the second half, compared to only 22 in the first half, you got to ask yourself, what do we need to change coming out of the gate to be able to play as productively as we normally do in the second half, but do it in the first half? And that's really where the biggest difference and keys for me going down the stretch are if this women's basketball team is going to want to get into that 8th spot or even higher into the RMAC standings.
How about some baseball to the Diamond? The baseball team opened up its season this last week, and we talked about the softball team having some rain wreak some havoc on things. Well, it rained down in Southern California last weekend as well. They were supposed to play 4 scheduled games in California, Cal State San Bernardino on Friday, and then a 3-game series against St. Martin's. They got all 4 games in, but after the first 2 games, they had to turn around. They actually played right here in St. George. St. Martin's made the drive up as well to play at Bruce Hurst Field. Dixie State, a pretty good start. Well, really good start, I should say. 3-1 to start over those 4 games with an 11-0 win, a 4-1 win, 5-3 loss, a 10-5 win. So the bats are going. This team's going to be able to swing it. The question was, how's pitching going to be? Well, how about week 1? Jaden Murray, RMAC Pitcher of the Week. He comes out and he leads the Trailblazers that first game of the year on Friday to an 11-0 win. 8 strikeouts, 5 innings pitched, gave up 1 hit, no runs, allowed just 3 base runners. Your coach Chris Fatenhauer, you like to see that, not only the bats, but the pitching going as well. Yeah,
certainly Jaden Murray is going to be one to keep your eye on for the baseball team going throughout the season, because he's going to be their ace on the mound, and he certainly proved it over the weekend, leading things off in that first game. Like we talked about with Coach Fatenhauer on last week's episode, they got a lot of young guys that have been coming up through the system just since last year, really, that got a lot of playing time after you lost a bunch of seniors last year. And so it's going to be really fun to see how they've transitioned, these young players, especially Jaden Murray, who got a lot of time last year, how they transitioned from last year to this year, obviously knowing that they're kind of the guys that are going to get the most playing time. So Jaden Murray certainly capable of performing like that any given day that you give him the ball. And then we'll see what it's going to be like for these younger guys that are now starting to get into their roles.
Women's golf, quickly before we run to break, we keep talking about how the weather was messing things up. They were in California as well. They went to play in sunny San Diego, what's supposed to be sunny San Diego. Interesting story, side story. Every time that I traveled to San Diego with the basketball team over the last 3 years, it was rainy or it was cold. And I kept saying, what is this Southern California? There's no such thing as warm weather. But it rained, and it shortened this tournament at Point Loma in San Diego. And the Trailblazers, in that rain-shortened event, the women's golf team finishes in 7th. Sophomore Kaylin Cardle rolled in the team-high 3 birdies to finish tied with 4th, with 4 others at 11th place at a 6 over 78 to lead the Trailblazers. Katie Ford penciled in 3 birdies in that last round as well. Sophomore Caitlin Diebel carded a 9 over 81 in the last round. Some pretty good showings, but they obviously want to get better from there, and they will. So Rain wreaking havoc is really the title of today's episode, I guess you could. Luckily, that rain is behind us, we hope, because we've got a lot of softball and a lot of baseball coming up this weekend. We've got to take a break, but speaking of softball, the head coach, Randy Simpkins, is going to join us next. He's waiting back in the control room to come join us out here on the set. Their season finally starts. It was supposed to start Tuesday. It starts tomorrow at the 2019 Courtyard Classic at the Canyons Softball Complex. We'll ask him about that tournament. We're going to ask him about the RMAC, about this year's team. We'll get all the details on the 2019 Dixie State softball team coming up next on Trailblazer Weekly.
Do you think people like John McCain and other people would just sit there quietly on the sides, and that many Republican activists would refrain from registering their disapproval in the peanut gallery?
Some might argue that Republican activist is an oxymoron.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of activism.
Right.
But do you see what I'm saying? If you just flip it right over on its head.
I would like to flip it on its head, and in fact, I'm already doing that because my own position is free speech is free speech. Okay, and I'm kind of advocating for something that I'm really not supporting in this respect. As far as protesting or not protesting and being able to recognize your audience, what we need on either side, I don't care where you're coming from, is the ability to recognize the audience.
Trailblazer Weekly is presented by the Dixie State Campus Store, the official store for Trailblazer and Dixie State clothing, as well as cheap textbooks, discounted computers, and supplies for students. They're located in the second floor of the Gardner Center and are open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week. Closed on Saturdays and Sundays? You can stop by any time because they'll be loaded with great Trailblazer swag all the time.
The 2019 softball season is set to begin tomorrow, and head coach Randy Simpkins is here to help us preview the new season. Coach, it's always glad to have you on. Thanks so much for joining us on today's show.
Great to be here, Trace.
Obviously, brand new season set to start tomorrow in the 2019 Courtyard Classic. A good tournament. Going to have a handful of really good teams, and it's a 4-day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I guess 3 days, and Sunday. You're going to have a lot of good teams coming in, and talk a little bit about how this tournament came together.
Well, we've always tried to, host stuff here. Hopefully the weather this week cooperates, but we've always had good February weather. We've been to the Desert Stinger a few times, went to Turlock a few times early in the D2, but we always wanted to do something here. So the last few years we've been able to put together a really good tournament. The city of St. George is great to us. They host us. They give us a date. They give us a venue. Their field crew does a great job taking care of the fields. They're out there working right now to get them ready for tomorrow. But it's a great opportunity to have teams out of the West region, and we even have teams out of the South Central region now coming in this weekend and next week. But it's a great opportunity for us to test us against some really, really good teams.
Obviously, you start out the season with the Courtyard Classic, and then obviously you have a home tournament here over at Carl Brooks Field, and then you have a lot of games to start the season at home here in St. George, whether at the Canyons or here at Carl Brooks Field. What kind of advantage does it give you to be able to play a big home slate, especially against some tough non-conference opponents?
You know what? We worked really hard to try to get a ton of home games early. We don't leave St. George for the month of February, whether it's on our field here or at out at the Canyons. We don't leave St. George for the month of February, so it's great. Our girls keeps our girls in class as much as possible. The student athlete thing, we always preach our student first and athlete second. So this allows them to stay in class a long time. It allows us to use that home field advantage, be able to sleep in your own bed. But no, it's good. Next weekend we have St. Edwards out of Texas, Adelphi out of New York, and Western Oregon, who's really, really good, beat Chico last week. So it's going to be a challenge for us to see some teams that we don't get to see on a regular basis. So it's great.
Chatting with softball head coach Randy Simpkins here on Trailblazer Weekly as the Trailblazers get set to begin the 2019 season out at the Canyon Softball Complex. Coach, you're looking at this year's team, and it's a solid core of returners from last year. You've got 9 or 10 starters that that started 75% or more of the games last year coming back. I've been out a couple times. Team seems like they're having fun. What have you seen as the team's gone through their preparations, got back from the Christmas break, school starts again, you're into full practice mode. What have you seen? What have you liked since things have gotten back full swing again?
No, I think you're right on. They are having fun, working hard. We know with the preseason being picked number 1 in the RMAC, we talk about, hey, just the target gets bigger, so you got to work harder, and they know that. We have a lot of them that have started for a long time. Some of them for off and on for all 4 years that they've been here. So that experience we're going to draw on. The conference schedule this year gets a little tougher, where we play 10 straight conference weekends, a 4-game series. So that's going to be really difficult. We're going to rely on maybe a little bit deeper roster, where we maybe wouldn't start somebody all 56 games, just because to try to manage health and manage arms and manage the energy level of everybody, we're going to have to rely on some of our underclassmen that might play a little bit bigger role than they would in the Pac West, where we had 32 conference games rather than 40 in the RMAC.
You asked and answered yourself my next question. You read it right into it. You're picked to win the RMAC. There's a little extra pressure there, but you've already addressed that with the team, and of course picking up the number 17 national ranking as well. And it's been quite a while since Dixie State softball hasn't been ranked going into the new season. In fact, I can't remember a year in recent years. So you already answered that question, but let's talk about the team in depth. Let's have some position previews here. Obviously, we put out the preseason release last week. We know some of the familiar faces, but let's start in the circle. Obviously, Cambry Hazel coming back, and she'll anchor that squad. But you've got Melendez coming back as well, and then the freshman out of Washington State coming in as well, and that's your 3 main ones. But break down what we're going to see in the pitching circle this year.
Cambry obviously had a great year last year, returning All-American as a freshman. So obviously we're going to rely on her pretty heavily. But Alex Melendez has been better and better and better every year. She changes speeds, be able to hit spots, and can get really, really good hitters out. So we're going to rely on Alex a lot. And then Carissa Burgess coming out of Ellensburg, Washington. Carissa threw the ball really well for us in the fall. Throws hard and down, gives us a chance to win, and is just getting better and better and better every day, And then the other kid that we brought in over semester break, Michaela Thompson. Michaela's a kid out of Salt Lake City that played at Southern Utah last year. She played a lot of first base, DH a little bit, can hit it a little bit, but she was a pitcher in high school a little bit and in travel ball, as well as a first baseman. So I told her, I says, I don't need you to be my number 1, number 2, maybe even my number 3. I just need you to come in and fill some innings with a lot of games, early in the year, and those 4-game series every weekend. It's going to require maybe a little bit deeper pitching staff than we had to have before. So we're going to rely on all 4. But no, we feel really good about our pitching staff, for sure.
Let's move around the infield. Obviously, we'll move. I don't want to gloss over the infield and move the outfield, but the infield is everyone's coming back pretty much. Yeah. You got Corey Gahn at first. You've got Caitlin Delaney at second, Bailey Gaffin at shortstop, Danny Barthoff at third, and there's some new faces in there as well. So the infield, and Jessica Gonzalez behind the plate. I think what everyone's wondering probably is the outfield. It's been a long time since we've seen a Dixie State team without a player like Janessa Bassett, like Kinsey Sawyer, Shelby Young, some of those players that have been here over the last few years. Take us through what we're going to see in that Dixie State outfield this year.
Yeah, losing Cheetah and Kenzie in the outfield, obviously those are 2 huge losses. They were really, really good in the outfield for us, and really, really good at the plate. All-American, junior college All-American, all-West region kids. So 2 of the people that we're going to look for initially to step in and fill those roles, obviously Taylor Godfrey is a senior outfielder, started off and on, over her 3 years, hits the ball really well, and is working really, really hard. So she could see time both in center field or in right field again. Brenna Hinks obviously back, so she'll play a big role there. The other one is the new kid, Casey Crawford. Casey will probably start at the top of our lineup a fair amount this year. She's a leadoff slapper, can hit, stand away and hit, and is a really good outfielder, strong arm, and gets better and better all the time. And then the other kid that we're seeing a fair amount, is Mallory Eldridge. Mallory Eldridge is a great hitter out of Colorado. So going into the RMAC, she's familiar with a lot of those teams and a lot of those players, going back home. But she's somebody that'll see some time in the outfield as well because she's had really, really good at-bats.
Chatting with softball head coach Randy Simpkins here on Trailblazer Weekly. Coach, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about transferring into the RMAC, obviously a new conference, new this year. How familiar are you with the RMAC, as I chew on my words? Have you gotten any sort of advice on maybe places to stay from other head coaches here at the college? How familiar are we with the college?
A few. We've been to Fort Lewis and Colorado Mesa as far as non-conference games in the past, so we've played them. We've played several of these RMAC teams have come to our tournament the last couple of years. So, we've played Metro before, we've played Fort Lewis, we've played Mesa, we've played Colorado Springs. So we've played several of those teams. Played Shadron, played Colorado Mines. They're all really good teams. So we do know some of those teams. We haven't played them obviously on a pretty regular basis. But there's a lot of firsts this year. A lot of first times traveling to some of these locations, and a lot of first times playing on some of these fields. I think 4 of our 6 road trips are on fields that have either all or part artificial turf. So that's an adjustment. We've spent a little bit of time over on the football field, to try to work on the turf. The ball's, it's faster that way, the ball gets to you, the bounces and those type of things. So yeah, our infield and outfield, we spend a little bit of time over there to try to not be completely, shocked when we go play at those places. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit different, some long bus rides or long plane rides to get to some of those locations. But, it's just like the Pac West, you have the long trip to Hawaii or the Bay Area or whatever. You make the road trip whatever you make out of it. But it's going to be fun. Our girls are really, really looking forward to the challenge.
I wanted to ask you about the donation that was announced in conjunction with the announcement to go to Division I, the $1 million donation that was donated to renovate the Carbrooks field. Obviously, talk about a little bit about that and how it's going to help your program going forward.
You know what? Our field and clubhouse that we have now, obviously Coach Rogers, and there were a lot of other people that spent a lot of time and effort and money, and got over 100 different volunteers to help with that clubhouse that they have now. That's got us to where we are now. That's allowed us to get excellent players in here, allowed us to get to the level that we are now at a top D2 team. In order for us to take the next step, we need, a fantastic facility, and this $1 million donation, that's a lead donation that's going to help us get there. It's going to create momentum. We're actively looking for other people to help, further this along to get us to our goal, to where we can, put shovel in the ground and get it done. But our president, our development officers, our athletic director, the community, they're all on board with this, and it's going to be a great thing.
Chatting with softball head coach Randy Simpkins, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the name of those donors, Dennis and Diane Lyman.
Great people, excellent supporters. They're at all of our games. They're big time supporters. They love our girls. They love our program. They are really, really big fans of education. They understand the importance of education. They've had, some of their children have been college athletes, not here at Dixie State, so they understand how important, education is, to the advancement of these young ladies to be great young ladies, not just here at Dixie State, but, in places beyond after that.
Coach, we're winding down here on the interview, about run out of time, but anytime we bring a coach or student athlete in, we like to finish up with some rapid fire questions, easy questions, don't worry, but we're going to start those off here. Pretty simple stuff. Obviously you coach in softball, but you play a lot of softball and baseball yourself. Favorite softball or baseball player? Could be growing up, could be now.
Probably Nolan Ryan. Yeah, longevity in his career, consistent effort, and just really, really competitive.
Favorite baseball venue or softball? Your team went back and played at
the Hall of Fame Stadium. It's got to be right up there. Great venue. It's softball only. It's not a converted thing. So, yeah, that was probably the best one that we've played in, for sure.
Favorite Major League Baseball team or softball?
Yankees. I'm a Yankees guy. The first glove I ever had Chris Chambliss in it. He was first baseman for the Yankees. So I've been a Yankees fan through and through, ever since I was a little kid.
So Carrick and I have an ongoing kind of debate about whether or not you could strike either of us out. And I know you could strike out Carrick, but I think I might be able to give you a little bit of a run for your money.
I've seen him throw. I'm not stepping in the box.
That's good stuff.
I got struck out in 4 pitches by Aaron Fikert a few years ago, and I think
you're in good company. There was a lot of people that got struck out by Aaron Fikert.
So head coach Randy Stimpkins of the Dixie State softball team, ranked 17th nationally in the preseason polls, picked to win the RMAC. The Trailblazers will open the season with 5 games this weekend: Western New Mexico, MSU Billings, Cal State East Bay, Hawaii Pacific, and Western Washington. Then a bunch more, a doubleheader against Northwest Nazarene this coming Monday, and then the Dixie State Classic next weekend with great teams like St. Edwards, Adelphi, Western Oregon, like we mentioned. And then the home slate continues with RMAC play beginning. Adams State and Colorado Christian, kind of a little pod system they do in the RMAC, will be in town the weekend of February 23rd and 24th. So lots of opportunity to get out and support the Dixie State softball team over the coming weeks, really through the whole month of February. They don't leave St. George until the month of March. Coach, thanks for stopping by. We know we've got to get you off the practice, and you missed some practice time with the rain and whatnot yesterday, so we'll get you down there and get you ready, let you get ready for the tournament this weekend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
We got to take a timeout. When we come back, we are going to take a look at our weekend preview. It'll be a segment early like we've done in the past couple of weeks with football head coach Paul Peterson coming in the final segment of the show. So coming up right after this timeout, our weekend preview. Don't go anywhere. There's a lot more after this.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
For over a century, Dixie State University has been shaping the Trailblazers of tomorrow by providing a culture of active learning, active life. With a paradigm of real-world experience mixed with cutting-edge technologies and rich traditions, we provide one of the most affordable educations in the West, set against the most stunning backdrop on the planet.
Trailblazer Weekly is the official show of Dixie State Athletics. You can keep up with all the Trailblazer athletic action with pictures, stats, and game recaps at DixieStateAthletics.com. While you're at it, don't forget you can follow our show on Twitter as well with @DSUBlazerWeekly.
Welcome back to Trailblazer Weekly. It's time to look ahead for an extremely busy weekend in Trailblazer Athletics. We'll do that in our third segment. We've got football coach Paul Peterson on deck as he's got a busy day, a National Signing Day. We hope to get him on a little bit later, but let's jump right into it with our weekend preview. In our third segment, we'll start with men's basketball. They welcome in Western Colorado and Colorado Mesa this weekend. Carrick, we talked about this a few weeks ago when they went to Colorado to play these two teams in that weekend, and talked a little bit about a trap game. And this was another one where a situation where Western Colorado comes in 0-15 on the conference. Then you got a monster game against Colorado Mesa the next night. Colorado Mesa and the Dixie State are tied in the standings right now, 9-6. And so a critical weekend where you can move up and down in the standings depending on how you do against a good Colorado Mesa team.
Absolutely. There's, like you said, they're not only tied with Colorado Mesa, but with Colorado Springs. Trailblazers, Colorado Springs, and Colorado Mesa are all 9-6 in the conference. So really, there's no room to drop any games. Especially can't lose at home. Like you mentioned, it's kind of backwards this time. When they went there, they had to, they got through the Colorado Mesa game, and you're worried, they're gonna have a letdown, and they came back and won at the end. Now it's are you going to get caught looking ahead to Colorado Mesa? I don't think they will, with how tough it was for them at Western Colorado. Of course, anytime a team hits, 24, 25 threes, in a game or 21 threes in a game like Western Colorado did, that's going to give that team a chance to win. But I don't think they will overlook them. But listen to this: you've got 3 teams at 9-6, 2 teams, that's Black Hills State and New Mexico Highlands, at 10-5 in the conference. Regis is at 12-3, so maybe that's too high. I don't think anybody's going to touch Colorado School of Mines. They're 15-0. They haven't lost in the conference, barring some sort of letdown on the Orediggers' part. They're probably going to have the upper hand in hosting the entire RMAC tournament if they get through their quarterfinal matchup. But you have a realistic chance at 3rd place. You're in a 3-way tie for 5th at 9-6, and like I mentioned, the 2 teams ahead of you at 10-5. The schedule is much more favorable than it was at the start of the first half of the conference season. Not saying it's going to be easy, because anybody can beat anybody on any night in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. But you have a legitimate opportunity and a chance to move up to high as 3rd if you can take care of business, and it all starts this weekend. Got to protect the Burns.
And if you do so and you get up to 3rd or even 4th, you get a home playoff game in that quarterfinal matchup, like you mentioned, which could be monumental going forward for the rest of the season and into the postseason. On the women's side, Carrick, again, same teams, Western Oregon and Colorado Mesa coming into town. Obviously, 2 very good teams, and Mesa, number 16th ranked team in the country. But, the excuses are over for the women's basketball team at this point. You got 2 very, very tough teams that are in the top 3 of the standings. Mesa are obviously at 15-0 in the conference, and then Western Colorado at 10-5. The time is now in order for you to make a move, and obviously you'd love to sweep the weekend, but that may be unrealistic, but certainly something the women's basketball team is capable of doing. And if you do so, a statement weekend, if you do, to get yourself back into a good contention in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference standings. Yeah,
you mentioned those 2 teams, Western Colorado number 3, Colorado Mesa. How about this? Colorado Mesa, the RMAC leader, 18-1 overall, 15-0 in the conference. They're allowing just 49.9 points per game. It was just over 50 when Dixie State went to Grand Junction a couple of weeks ago. It's under 50 now. One of just 2 teams in all of NCAA Division II that allows less than 50 points per game. Number 2 in the nation in scoring defense is Colorado Mesa. And so Dixie State will have its hand full, but here's some food for thought. Food for thought. Colorado Mesa, 1 loss on the season. Do you know where that 1 loss occurred?
I'm going to say right here in Burns Arena to start the season in that tournament.
Yep, they lost to Western Oregon. That doesn't mean anything, but it's just, us media guys like to throw stuff like that out like it actually means something. But Dixie State can maybe go back and look at that Western Oregon game. They lost to Western Oregon. Dixie State beat Western Oregon the day before that. So the Trailblazers can go into this game knowing that Colorado Mesa is coming back to a place where they suffered its only loss of the season, and so it'll be interesting. Couple huge games for Dixie State. 11-8 overall, 7-8 in the RMAC. And if you look at the standings, again, Dixie State in about 10th at 7-8. Black Hills State is 8-7, and then there's 3 teams at 9-6 and a couple of teams at 10-5. So you're a couple games out of the RMAC tournament. You really, really have to get going, have to string together some victories if you want to make it to that RMAC tournament. That's the basketball. Head coach Paul Peterson is going to join us in the next segment. But we do got to wrap up this weekend preview quickly. Let's look first at baseball, Drayson. The Trailblazers weren't supposed to be at Bruce Hurst Field until this weekend. They got to play a couple of games on Sunday because of some weather stuff. Now they'll play Northwest Nazarene tomorrow and on Friday before playing. They'll play a doubleheader tomorrow. They got Northwest Nazarene and Cal State LA. And then on Saturday they play Cal State LA once more, and that will wrap up the weekend for the Trailblazers. But 3 or 4 other baseball teams in. Softball team hosting the huge 14-team tournament. 14 NCAA Division II teams from 5 different conferences. Dixie State will open tomorrow. They'll play a number of teams, and like Coach Simpkins mentioned a couple of minutes ago, it's a good opportunity to see teams from all over, maybe some that aren't in your conference schedule. And so for both baseball and softball, it's great that you get to open up at home. The rain is behind us. so that shouldn't have an effect. We should be able to play right through.
I was just going to mention
it'll be cold. It'll be colder than normal, but you'll get to play right through.
Yeah, I was going to mention the rain. I'm glad you brought it up because we were worried earlier in the week about these baseball games getting in, and they were able to get them in, fortunately. And now, obviously, with the rain behind us, like you said, we will be able to get a whole slate of games in for both the baseball and softball teams. Like you mentioned, for that softball tournament, 14 teams is a really good opportunity for you to see, teams that you might face maybe in the conference or maybe not, maybe non-conference games, or maybe even as late as, into the postseason if you get that far. And hopefully, obviously, the softball team has a good season and is able to do so. But a lot of great games this weekend for both the baseball and softball teams, and I'm excited. It's a great part of the year where hopefully we're getting the kind of cold weather out this week and in through the weekend, and then obviously getting into some warmer weather down here in southern Utah. And nothing like a great warm day out watching some baseball or some softball.
Quick trivia for you before we go to break. Dixie State, the softball team, will play 5 games this week, right? Mm-hmm. How many different conferences are those opponents from? 5 different opponents. How many different conferences will be represented in those opponents?
Obviously, it can't be more than 5 because you can't have one team in multiple conferences. The reason you're asking me is probably significant that it's either 4 or 5, and just based on the question, I'm going to say 5 different conferences.
4. You almost nailed it right on the head. Western New Mexico on Thursday from the Lone Star Conference. Montana State Billings on Friday from the GNAC. Cal State East Bay from the CCAA on Friday. Hawaii Pacific from the Pac West on Saturday, and then Western Washington from the GNAC. So Western Washington, Montana State Billings, both from the GNAC. 4 conferences represented in those opponents. Some very tough ones. Hawaii Pacific is always good. Western Washington always good. Montana State Billings is always good. Cal State East Bay and Western New Mexico. Dixie State has lost to both of those teams in the past. So this is a good preseason slate before you open up conference play for this softball team. There's your weekend preview. You also have some women's golf, not in the weekend, but Monday and Tuesday of next week. You can see all of these results, DixieStateAthletics.com on the website. We'll also have updates for you on the Dixie State Athletics Facebook and Twitter. We got to take our final timeout. When we come back, football head coach Paul Peterson, on the heels of putting together his first recruiting class at Dixie State, will join us. In fact, some of those names still coming in here on National Signing Day for football. We'll sit down with Coach Peterson in the next segment, talk to him about his team, his coaching staff, this recruiting class. It's the first time we'll have been able to have him on the show. It's all coming up next on Trailblazer Weekly.
Okay, we are inviting you to join us for Talking Point Live.
Coming to you, not necessarily live, but tape delayed on the Community Education Channel at 9:30, 12:30, and 4:30 daily, from what I understand. But you can also pick it up on our Facebook page at facebook.com/TalkingPointLive.
And respond to us, right?
Please,
on
let
Facebook.
us know, because it's important to understand not only how our conversation is going, but maybe how is it affecting you at home as well. All right, Eric Young,
Jennifer Kohler.
Talking Point Live. We'll see you.
Radio Dixie 91.3. We don't play that. Nope, not that. A big fat no there. That's what we play. And stuff like that. On St. George's only alternative, Radio Dixie 91.3. Oh, and from 9 till midnight, we play this. And this. Radio Dixie 91.3 FM.
The Dixie State Stretch Internet Portal and the RMAC Network is your home for all Trailblazer athletics live streaming. Don't miss a second of the action. You can watch DSU games home and away at portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State. That's portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State.
Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly one final time. It is National Signing Day for football. And here to help us break down this important day is the man in charge, head coach Paul Peterson. Coach, thanks for taking some time out of a busy day. I know, a lot of those names are in, still waiting for a few, and so we appreciate you taking some time and being with us.
It's definitely an exciting day for us and for these young men, and we're excited to add some more Trailblazers.
We're going to talk about a lot of those guys and the recruiting class as a whole, but we were just talking during the break. We've tried to get you on the show the last couple of weeks, but no, you don't need to apologize. You've been here, there, and everywhere putting this. Well, first of all, putting a coaching staff together, and then putting this recruiting class together. So you've been literally here, there, and everywhere. So this is our first opportunity to have you on the show. We really appreciate being here. The first question that a lot of people ask is, why a job appealed to you? You answered that question at your press conference when we introduced you, a couple months ago. But what was it about Dixie State that really? And I understand this job was on your radar a couple of years ago when it came open again. You nailed the opportunity. You're here. Why Dixie? What was it that jumped out about the school?
This is really a destination city, I think. I mean, it's not getting any smaller. People are coming here in droves, right? So the university is definitely growing. The brand of football is excellent. This jump to Division I is exciting to me to be able to play some really big-time teams. We're putting a schedule together. Dr. Booth is doing a fantastic job. We got some really fun teams in the future, and the RMAC teams are no joke. So this upcoming season will be fun. I think just the feel that I've got when I expressed interest from the very first interview with Dr. Booth and then getting on campus, just this place is just waiting to explode, and I'm lucky to be a part of it.
Talk about building your coaching staff. Obviously, when you got named head coach in December, early December, and then it was full steam ahead. The holidays were coming up, and you wanted to get that coaching staff put together, and because you knew recruiting season was already really happening, and you didn't want to get into it too late, so you put that staff together. But I know you're really high on a lot of these guys, and they've either played at the highest level or coached at the highest levels. And just talk about your coaching staff and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, so they're fun guys, man. They're good to be around. I think that's the first thing you got to look for is that you mesh, that you know them, and that they're good people. They're good family men, and they'll be great mentors for these young men that we have on our team. So, I started with our defensive coordinator, Tyler Allman. He was with me at Sacramento State. He was there for 7 years. He was there 5 with me. He was my lunchtime running partner, so we had some good talks. Really good guy, man. He's got 2 young daughters and a beautiful wife, Marissa. And actually, they just left today, him and Coach Fossil, to go move their family back, give them a couple of days off to get all situated. But great defensive mind, very, very organized. Put some guys in the NFL from Sacramento State. Really excited that he decided to join me. He was at a private school in Sacramento, Christian Brothers High School, very, very successful there. Easy hire for me, and we'd been in contact for a long time, and so when it opened, he jumped right on it. He was excited about it. We'll stay on defense too. Loney Fangupo. So Big Loney, if you've met him, you've heard him because he's larger than life. I don't know how he squeezes through doors. Awesome guy. He's with me at Snow College. Played professionally in the NFL. Played at USC. He's from Tonga. Came over when he was a senior in high school and kind of figured out how to play football after that. He was with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he got 4 or 5 years in the NFL. Very, very good recruiter, good recruiter with the Polynesians, and his guys run through a wall for him. So he's definitely an awesome coach. Great hire for me. I'm glad he came over. Misi Tupe. Misi's a name that everyone knows here. He's almost the mayor here in St. George. Played here. Yeah, he played here. Went to Texas A&M afterwards. I know he coached here one stint before with Coach Brumfield. He joined the previous coach at Snow College. I retained him. Great coach, great defensive mind, and he helps prepare these young men too. He'll be perfect. He was an easy hire too, bringing him from Snow College. And then Mike Smith. Mike Smith, originally from Tucson, Arizona. He played in the NFL. Was drafted actually. I think it was the Tampa Bay Bucks. And then he ended up getting injured, but he played at Utah State. He was at BYU. I stole him from BYU as an analyst. He'll coach our corners. Great guy, great recruiter. Again, a good person too. His wife's up in pro. He's got a little daughter. Loney's got 4 kids. He's got 3 boys and a girl. He says he's going for a dozen. I don't know if I believe him or not, but he's on his way. And then Misi also, his wife is here coaching on the volleyball team, and he's got 4 kids as well. So we got I think 30 kids amongst all of our coaches. That rounds out the defensive staff. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, let's keep rolling. We're chatting with football head coach Paul Peterson, and we want to talk about signing day and those recruits. We want to hear about the rest of your coaching staff, and then we'll jump in and talk about signing day.
Yeah, okay. Offensive line coach John Hughes. John was with me at Sacramento State as well for a couple years. He's been at University of Akron. He was at University of Colorado. Just got him from Western Colorado. He was only there for 6 months for the season. So he's familiar with the conference. He played at Humboldt State. Really good offensive line coach, great personality. Excited to work with him. Peter Tuitupo is going to be our running backs and our tight ends. Peter, again, another guy that's played in the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He played at San Jose State from Snow College. He's from Mountain View High School in Utah. Got a great connection with the kids from the Provo-Orem area. Really good recruiter, good technician as well. He's a great addition for us. JD Fossliv. JD is a name you might have heard. Played at BYU, receiver, kick returner. He's going to coach our receivers. He's up from Skyview High School, I believe, in the Logan area. He'll be our recruiting coordinator as well. Very organized. Set up really good visit weekends for our kids. Did a great job there. And then Mike Fossil. Mike Fossil is my go-to guy. He's awesome. Played with me at Boston College as a kicker. Super smart. He was at Princeton before. He was helping with the pro team in Las Vegas, the Locos. He's going to handle our special teams and our football operations. Am I missing anybody?
I think you got him.
I think I got him.
Fun fact,
yeah.
Mike's brother coaches in LA. Saw him on TV on Sunday.
Yeah.
Everyone, that looks just like Mike.
Yeah,
That's got to be his brother.
His dad's the famous Jim Fossil, who's the head coach at University of Utah and the New York Giants. And Mike's an awesome guy. He'd never tell you. I mean, he's humble as could be. So.
Now, the last thing that people might be wondering about the staff, and then we'll jump into talking about these recruits. If you go to the roster, if you look at the coaching staff, there's no offensive coordinator, which must mean you're leaning toward or are planning on calling plays and kind of heading that up.
I love it. I love coaching the quarterbacks, and calling the plays is something that I really, really enjoy. As I made this staff come together, I was looking for an offensive coordinator. The way it worked out to be able to get the guys that I really wanted to help on the staff, it was something that I would have to take over and maybe help one of these other coaches eventually take it over. That's kind of my plan. But to get the offense rolling, the no huddle up tempo offense, I wanted to get it going with the quarterbacks, and so I took that over. So hopefully I get to pass it sooner than later.
Talking with football head coach Paul Peterson here on Trailblazer Weekly. Coach, let's jump right into signing day. Obviously, you've got the list here in front of you.
Yeah, I got it too. That's right.
You know, just from the layman looking at this, you got a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of good key players on defense. I don't know if I want to have you single anyone out, but talk about the class as a whole and maybe
really excited about
what you expect from these guys coming in.
Yeah, I really excited about this class. We kind of had our hands tied with time. Usually this is a year-long process where you gather information in the springtime or even the previous year signing time in January where we're finding guys. So really we were behind a year. So to be able to get a relationship with these kids as quick as possible, get them here on campus, that was critical to me. And when we got them here on campus, almost every one of the kids they committed. That just says a lot for the people that are here on campus about what's happening here. Our coaches did a fantastic job of grabbing these guys. I kind of, put my finger on the map, and we got a 6-hour radius. That's really where we're focusing. So we're going to get into Las Vegas, Southern California, a little bit into. We got our quarterback out of Southern Idaho. So we're trying to make it work for here. Really excited about these guys. We've got some guys that are going to push some guys on our team right now, no question. And we'll always play the best guy no matter what year they are or what experience they have or don't have. And so we feel like we got some guys to push what we got right now.
Obviously, National Signing Day coming off the hills, at least for Dixie State, the announcement to move to Division I.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've known this for a month publicly, or a month or so. How much of a factor did that play into maybe to potential recruits about, hey, you're going to be a player at a Division I college come 18 months from now?
Yeah, there's that. I don't know what you want to call it, that mystique about playing Division I football. That definitely helped. I think we need to change the mindset in the state of Utah as far as the brand of football that's played down here a little bit. These bigger schools did a fantastic job of recruiting, and me coming in late, I think maybe a little bit earlier would have helped, or maybe it wouldn't have, but we lost a couple kids to preferred walk-ons to BYU and Utah, and I think that's always going to happen, but as we get going, I think we're going to start grabbing those kids and getting them down here for sure. But yeah, that momentum, making that announcement was big.
Chatting with football head coach Paul Peterson in our last few minutes here on Trailblazer Weekly. It is football signing day, and Drayson mentioned bringing in a lot of offensive linemen. John Hughes, your offensive line coach, was in my office this morning, and he was just geeked about how big big and how strong and how it all starts up front. You want to talk offensively, the quarterback can be as good as you want, but if you don't have guys up giving them time to throw, then it's pretty much nothing. I know he was pretty excited. I don't know much about these guys, but he was really excited about those guys on the offensive line that you've been able to get here today.
Get some really good guys. When I told my staff, we go out there in recruiting, I said, take care of your room, right? So make sure that you find the right guys that'll fit for what we're trying to do, that'll fit with you as fast as we can to figure this out. And I think we did a really good job of finding and identifying kids that would help us. We got Solo Katoa from right down the street at Pineview. We found out he prayed with a broken foot all year, and he's a monster. I'm scared to see what he's going to do with a healthy foot, but great visit with him. He's a fantastic kid, a true leader. He's the one that really sticks out to me. Benjamin Smith from Cypress High School, Mason McIntyre from Hemet in California. Some really, really big guys that will definitely help us out. And we're going to continue to look for those bigger, taller, longer guys that can move. And we really focused on trying to get 4 or 5 offensive linemen there.
Of course, offense, people want to talk about skill positions. You look up and down here, you don't see too many of them. There's a couple running backs, a couple receivers. Your quarterback, Kobe Tracy, out of Highland High School in Chubbuck, Idaho, right around near Pocatello, for those of you wondering where exactly that is. And break down those skill positions for you. I know, one guy that people seem to be really excited for on social media is your running back, Andrew Canelli Robles. Hopefully I said his name right. He's just getting a lot of chatter on social media.
Yeah, so we got two really good junior college running backs, okay? So Robles is fantastic. He's a bigger back, really strong, really, really productive. Coach Hughes had a chance to recruit him and did a really good job to be able to get him. He actually didn't come on a visit and decided to sign with us. There was a bunch of snow in Medford, Oregon, so he got delayed. But it says a lot that we had a relationship with him to be able to sign sight unseen. And I'm excited about him. Diarman Natoa is another one at Snow. I got a chance to recruit him. He actually broke his foot in fall camp this past year. He was an All-American captain for us, 1,000-yard rusher, big, strong kid. And he was being recruited by some big-time schools. And when that injury happened, I think that really helped us out. So I'm excited to get him. Who am I missing?
We didn't talk about Kobe Tracy.
Yeah, Kobe. Yeah,
you're a quarterback yourself. So that's that's right up your alley. Yeah. What do you see when you look at Kobe Tracy?
So Kobe. So I've got a couple connections in the state of Utah that are kind of quarterback gurus and train some guys. And I said, who do you got? Who's there? Who do we got? And Kobe had come down to this what's called Mountain West Elite, and had done these camps with them a couple times. And I saw his film, productive, 71% completion percentage. He's got, I think it's a 21-3 record. He's a winner. He completes the ball. He's a big, tall, long kid, plays hoops. I went and when I recruited him, watched him play basketball. He's looks like he's a thinner guy, but he's pretty strong, muscly kid. Can make all the throws on the field. Watch him on his huddle film. He's a big time get for us. That quarterback position is always huge. So we're definitely excited about him. Receiver, we got Sai. I don't know, Sai Kubayana. I'm going to mess that up. He's from Miliani High School and saw him at the All Poly Camp in the summertime. Really a tough kid, good lateral speed. Ricky Johnson, another receiver that we got. We're excited about those guys. We added some depth to an already good receiving core. So I think we did a pretty good job offensively.
We're chatting with football head coach Paul Peterson here on Trailblazer Weekly, and unfortunately the time goes so fast.
No, are we done already?
We're kind of up against the gun here, but in 90 seconds, let's talk about the defense.
Okay.
Well. The defensive guys you brought in, I don't want to skip over those. I know Coach Allman has been really excited.
Well, we got a kicker
about,
too. I'll talk
and
about
a kicker. Let's talk about James Baird, and let's say that we got 2 minutes. Let's talk about James Baird, the kicker, and then let's talk about the defense as well, because I don't want to. It's hard. You don't want to leave anybody out. They're all important.
Well, I just heard last year we had some struggles with hitting some field goals. James can hit field goals, so we got a kicker.
I saw you post that on Twitter.
I'm excited about that.
Get him within 35, 40 yards.
We got some really good corners. And Krishan and Tyrell, really good job. Mitch Jacobs is another guy. His brother plays in the NFL from Las Vegas, defensive end. Nersinger, defensive end from Las Vegas, 18 sacks. We got Lenandre Schwally, a kid that I think is really a steal. He looks like already an NFL player. Sir Barnes, linebacker, big-time player out of Mission Viejo, which is perennially a championship team down there in Southern California. We're really excited about him. I know I'm going to skip some guy. Rex, I can't even pronounce his last name, Polynesian from Carson High School. Another big-time linebacker that has potential to help us right away. So we got some guys to help us in the back end. I got to talk about Mote Lokotui from Bingham High School, was with me at Snow College. He's a 3-for-3 player. He is tough as they come, man. Super excited about him. He could potentially even get bigger, stronger, and play some linebacker for us. So definitely added some depth in the safety in the backfield. But again, I think our guys did a really good job of protecting their room, of really making sure they got guys that can fit in, that can help us right away for all positions. I don't think we're lacking in any one position. I think we did a pretty good job. We got our mid-year signees from Snow College as well. We got those 3 guys. I'm going to miss one. We got Chase Hess. We got Chase Hess. We got Jalen Powell.
Tyler Hill.
Ty Hill playing corner, those 3. And we got 3 return missionaries coming back in the summertime. So again, defensive lineman.
You know that Ty Hill's brother is a legend around
He's a legend, right? Hoops. We got to get him out there shooting hoops a little bit. It's great kids, man. I wish we had more time to talk about each one of these individually.
We're going to have you on
these guys are awesome.
the next months. And so spring ball coming up.
Let's do it.
In the next couple of months, we'll be able to chat with you a lot about these guys. And I wish we'd have had more time with you here today. But at least got to get you on and get to know you and talk about these kids. That's what it's all about. If you want to see the list for yourself, head over to DixieStateAthletics.com. It's the first story you'll see. We'll have that pinned as the top story for the next couple of days. We'll be putting out a press release just showing these guys and who they are. Yeah. Hopefully tonight, if not tonight, tomorrow morning. So, Coach, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah,
exciting
awesome.
Time.
Love you guys.
You got your coaching staff.
Yeah.
You got
we're rolling,
your first recruiting class, and it's go time.
Yeah, I got more gray hair, and we're going fast, man.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Our time is gone. Another edition of Trailblazer Weekly in the books. Remember, you can watch the show anytime on demand at youtube.com/Dixie State Athletics. He's football head coach Paul Peterson. To his right is Drayson Ball. I'm Carrick Segmiller for the entire CEC TV crew, and for Martin Kelly in the Radio 91.3 FM studio. We thank you for watching or listening. Have a great day. We'll catch you next week on Trailblazer Weekly.